All right, folks, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Good evening and welcome. I'm going to call the regular meeting of the Nevada City Council to order. Today is Wednesday, October 26, 2022, and it is 6:30 p.m. exactly. I'd like to ask Councilmember Peterson to do the full Nisenan land recognition.
Yes, thank you. Happy to do it. We acknowledge the Nisenan people are still here among us today, though they are nearly invisible and their story continues to be excluded from history. We understand, and we are on Nisenan land that was never ceded, and the original tribal families have yet to recover from the near genocide of their people. As a resident or visitor in Nisenan land, we support the Nevada City Rancheria Nisenan tribe in efforts to stabilize their people, as well as the campaign to restore tribal sovereignty through federal recognition. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if everybody would like to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, I'll lead us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, Madam Deputy Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Will. Councilmember Ceci?
Here.
Councilmember Klein?
Here.
Councilmember Peterson?
Here.
Vice Mayor Fernandez?
Here.
And Mayor Fleming?
Here. Okay, now it's time to adopt the agenda. The council is now, we're going to ask if there are any modifications or anybody wants to pull an item off of the consent agenda. I think we're going to pull number 4.
Yes, please.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda with the exception of item 4 on the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
There you go. That was efficient. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0. Okay. All right. We have a presentation today. A proclamation for Military Appreciation Week, which is November 5th through 13th. The County Board of Supervisors and Grass Valley City Council are adopting similar proclamations for Military Appreciation Week. I just wanted to let you guys know that I went along with our city manager and the chairman of the Board of Supervisors, Sue Hoke, to the Beale Air Force Base, and we got to a presentation from some of the wonderful people there. And one of the things that I didn't realize, and I learned, they only have 500 they can only house 500 people on base. So most of their people live in the community, including a lot who live in Nevada City. And so we're making an effort countywide to have a better relationship with the airmen and women who work there and live in our community. We are also trying to do things like bring them here for Victorian Christmas and, you know, try to give them a little slice of home. So in that spirit, we are presenting a proclamation today for Military Appreciation Week, and I'm going to ask our wonderful Chief of Police to come up here and accept this. He has served. What branch were you in? You told me at dinner the other night.
I was in the Army.
Yes, you were. In tanks, I think.
Well, Bradley's the light tank.
All right, let me sign this and I'll bring it up to you. Okie dokie. All right, let's talk about public comment. Government Code Section 54954.3 provides that any member of the public may address the City Council on any matter not on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the city. The Brown Act, with limited exceptions, does not allow the council or staff to discuss issues brought forth under public comment. The council cannot take action on non-agendized items. Concern may be referred to staff or placed on a future agenda. Please note that comments from the public will also be taken on each agenda item at the time it is heard. All right, so do we have any public comment in the room on, oh, we do?
Coming up this
Perfect
Saturday.
timing.
I'm sorry.
Jim, you're next, okay? Why don't you come up, Jim? We'll let Stuart get settled. Sure. Hi. How are you?
Good, good. So, Jim Hodemy, and I just had actually here just to bring up a few neighborhood concerns about the owner occupancy provision in SB 9. So, it's because we have now on 101 Bennett Street, you guys probably all know, an application for an SB 9 urban lot split by a developer, and that application is going through the approval process. And I visited the property, and they indicated that it's in the final stages. So this is the first SB 9 lot split before the city, and so it sets a precedent for future applications. So I just wanted to address it in that context, that it's important that we follow the rules both, to see that we get it right and also to protect the city. And I feel, and everybody in our neighborhood feels that it's imperative that we follow what we see as the most important provision in the law, which is the 3-year owner occupancy provision. And that was the provision that was put in the law to prevent developers, speculators, institutional investors, and others from using the law or misusing the law, I should say, and driving up prices. So just to finish up with SB 9, as we all know, we have a different process, and we don't have the involvement of the Planning Commission. We don't have the involvement indirectly of the City Council also, and we don't have, there's no requirement that the neighbors be informed, so since it's all ministerial. So, what I'm asking is you're probably already doing, but just to make sure that it is actually happening, I'd just like to ask that the city manager and the legal counsel get very active in helping the city planner in this whole process, which I've had a limited amount of communications, but I understand it's complicated and might be a little contentious. So, in it, and just asking you all to be involved, and on top of this, nobody seems to know how this provision is going to be enforced. So just as a last thought, I'd like to say, I don't think that we can rely on the honor system to see that it actually is enforced. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Appreciate it. Is there any more public comment? Hi, Stuart.
Good evening, Council. Stuart Baker with the Nevada City Chamber of Commerce. I know that you received public comment last week from an individual who felt that she was maybe targeted or had maybe unfair treatment by the police. And it's a person that we all know and is frequently seen in the downtown. I thought I would just check in with merchants to see how they were seeing the process, because there was, she said, a claim that there was maybe a targeted effort against her. So I took the time to get some comments from various merchants to give their impressions, so I'll just read those to you. This is from the owner of Nevada City Crystal and Glass. She says, as a business owner who takes pride in the cleanliness and safety of our town, I applaud the efforts of our police department in regards to our few unruly unhoused in the downtown area. I feel it makes a difference for our visitors as well as locals, especially those with young children, not to be subjected to language, potential violence, and general trash as they walk our streets. This is from the owner of Grey Goose. As a shop owner on Broad Street, I want to acknowledge and thank those responsible for lessening some of the problems that we have had continually for the last several years. This makes a huge difference to the experience of our visitors in the town and to myself as a shopkeeper. Please keep up this important diligence. And I have two more that I received via text. And this is from the owner of Two Little Birds on Commercial Street. We really appreciate the changes we have noticed in response times to issues that affect our commercial street businesses. Having the ability to text our police chief and know that our concerns matter and that they are working on solutions is very reassuring. A few weeks ago, I had a customer who was a tourist from out of town who was very scared after encountering a person who was yelling aggressively. She was incredibly grateful to have me be able to contact our police chief and get a response back while she was there in the store. In fact, she was very impressed with our town's quick reactions. Thank you for keeping our customers safe. Lastly, I have one from Elizabeth Raish of Java John's. It's a little bit on the long side, so I may go over, but if you want me to stop, just let me know. Let's see, I'm pleased with Chief Foss and his force's efforts to bring order to our small town by holding accountable those who are either maliciously or ignorantly creating uncomfortable situations for our merchants, citizens, and tourists. When I took over Java John's, I tried to be an opening and welcoming to everyone and still provide a pay-it-forward program to help those in need. Some of those recipients of the program chose to bruise both the kindness of the community and my team by stealing from the program and littering goods uneaten along the street. We have had to do our own policing by forcing some of these people from participating in our programs. This, of course, has brought some retaliation from those who were prohibited on our premises. She says that none of these situations should have occurred. All these situations were preventable by a focused and thorough police department. It is not the responsibility of the merchants and the residents to police the homeless population. This is absolutely the responsibility of the police. And luckily, we have a very kind and thoughtful police chief that understands policing is more than about keeping helping the community than about punishing the criminal. All these people need help. I am not trained to help them.
Okay, Stuart, you got to wrap it up a
Yeah,
little bit.
okay,
We get the gist, right? Is there anything else that we?
Yeah, no, there's just another note of appreciation to the work of the police chief. So anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention. It's good to hear that perspective.
Great, excellent.
However dehumanizing it might be.
Oh, hi, come on up.
Hi, thanks again for being here. I love you guys so much. I really appreciate you. I also am part of Nevada City. I'm Melissa from Bistro 221, and again, thank you. I appreciate everything that everybody has done, including the police chief here, that is helping keep us all together. And it's difficult for me as a business owner to have my things get ruined by the homelessness, but I know we're not the first city to have to deal with this situation. So I just want to express my gratefulness that it's not overbearing. I get uncomfortable sometimes when I have to walk around and I see things, and so I can only imagine what it does to people that come to our community but it happens everywhere. So I just want to reiterate that as long as we're paying attention and trying to help the process move forward and helping people that are homeless to do something different with their lives and not be totally overbearing. I don't know what the answer is, but I don't like my things getting ruined at my restaurant. I don't want glass to be broken. I don't want guests in our community to feel overwhelmed by the talking of, being aggressive, these homeless people being aggressive and trash being everywhere. I don't like the trash. I don't like the rudeness. And I just want to make sure everybody's feels safe, and I want to feel safe. And that's all I can say about this. And again, thank you so much for being here and helping us take care of our wonderful community.
Thank you, Melissa. Thanks for sharing. Is there anybody else in the room who would like to make a public comment? In the back? No. Okay. All right, can we look in cyberspace to see if anybody's waiting in the wings?
We do. We have Theo, don't know the last name, Botanites? And I apologize if I hatcheted that, but go ahead, Theo.
Hi, thank you. This is open public comment. That's correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Appreciate everything the council is doing. It's a lot of great energy here. And I'm speaking on the strategic plan. And I noticed a lot of great things about the fire safety in the community. And I happen to be on the fire safety advisory committee. But speaking personally, I was confused why buildings were not listed as one of the priorities. It's pretty low-hanging fruit when you look at fire prevention is to go with the buildings out. A lot of fuel treatments are great, but it's not going to get us out of the situation of a wind-driven ember storm fire, which is the more likely scenario that we'd have a problem with a complete burn down of the town. And so I just really encourage the council to add that kind of priority of buildings, especially in light that downtown Nevada City is a historic district, and we can't really keep the historic buildings alive if they do burn down. So, peeling paint, sure this is being looked at, but I think it needs to be written as a priority. Leaves in eaves, leaves on the corners of buildings, flammable natural materials on porches. It's a lot of really simple, low cost things to request homeowners to do, just as we tell them to manage their vegetation. But really, for burn down risk, if you look at the NFPA statistics and you look at the campfire data, the stuff is about your house is going to burn down whether it's fuel nearby or not if there's a lot of embers in the air. So just really encourage. I don't want to give a lecture on this. I know there's a great fire professional who's the city manager now and our fire chief, but it seemed kind of like a weird omission to not have buildings be a priority. And I'm wondering if it's a thing of private property is sort of seen as more private if it's a building than if it's plants on your property. So I look forward to seeing a change in the strategic plan so that we can more aggressively move forward with something that will actually protect our historic buildings rather than just keep the facade looking the same, but keep the actual entire buildings intact. If you looked at Chief Crazy Horse, just one example, it's got shake wood shingles.
Yep.
There's leaf buildup in the corner, and that's 3 feet below a wooden deck. So that's a sure fire. That's going to burn with some embers. There's a lot of examples like that. I'm sure you all know. So I just hope that we have the bandwidth to put that on the docket. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Theo. Thank you for pointing that out. That's important for us to understand. Thanks. Is there anybody else?
If you'd like to speak on items not on the agenda, please raise your virtual hand. And we do. We have Matthew Coulter. Go ahead, Matthew.
Hi, Matthew.
Hey guys, good to see you all. And I really like the chambers in Nevada City. It's very cool. So you guys should be proud that you have that cool, you're sitting at the same level with the people. You're not elevated above them, as a lot of city councils seem to be. And it just kind of puts a bad air. But I have an ask, and I would like somebody from City Hall to do something about the hanging plants right in front of City Hall, because a lot of the hanging plants up and down Broad are taken care of, and the ones in front of City Hall are dead.
It's true.
So if someone could take care of it, that would be awesome.
Thank you, Matthew. That's kind of a glaring omission on our part, so thank you for pointing that out.
It's ominous.
Yeah.
I know you're busy, but it's those little things that scream.
No, these things matter.
What are you trying to say,
They do,
Stuart?
and we have a citizen here who knows a little bit about that, so we'll dive into that a little later. Anything else, Matthew?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else out there?
There is not.
Okay, moving on. All right. So we pulled item 4 for consideration. I think now is the time to What
So
am I
probably
missing?
handle the consent calendar as one item, and then we can do number
Okay.
4 separately after you vote on the consent calendar?
Okay, I thought we did that with the regular agenda, but I didn't. All right, consent agenda. All items listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. And I'm looking for a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar without item 4.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposition? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0, with a first by Adam and a second by Daniela. Okay, so item number 4 is consideration of the cancellation of the regular city council meeting dates of November 23, 2022, and December 28, 2022, and the rescheduling of the December 14th, 2022 regular council meeting to December 15th, 2022. And this is in part because of Victorian Christmas, but take it away, Lou.
Okay, thank you. I was one who requested that this be done. I respectfully request that we split item 4 into 2 items. The first to cancel the second meetings in November and December, and the second to consider the date of the first December council meeting. The reason I'm going to do that is because I'm then going to ask that you postpone a decision on the December meeting until the next council meeting. And the reason for that is December 15th was the scheduled meeting for the Fire Safety Advisory Committee, and I want to give my members a chance to respond to alternative dates when they could hold that. And so far, I've heard from 3 of them, and I'm waiting to hear from the rest.
That sounds completely fair. And are you asking us to cancel one of these meetings and just say we're only going to do one meeting in December, or is that? I'm sorry.
Split item 4 into 2. The first is to cancel the second meetings in November and December.
Okay.
And a second is to postpone the decision on the December 14th meeting until the next council meeting.
Okay,
I have a clarifying question.
sure.
So the postponement is why? I mean, I understand that you are rescheduling the fire meeting, but if it's being rescheduled, then can't we assume it's not happening on that day?
Well, currently, the council meets on the second Wednesday of the month, and the Fire Safety Advisory Committee meets on the third Thursday. And by coincidence of the calendar, the third Thursday follows the second Wednesday in December, as it did in September. And I just got notice out to my Fire Safety Committee members and gave them a list of dates as an alternative if the council does bump it to the 15th.
So
Was that your question, or was your question why postpone the decision?
I guess if you've given alternative dates, then we can assume that the 15th won't be one of those dates. So
Correct.
why can we not move forward with establishing the 15th if we know that the 15th isn't going to be that date?
Good point.
Just
Okay, so we need some motions here. Does that work for you, Lou?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to consider the cancellation of the regular city council meeting dates of November 23rd and December 28th.
So moved.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0. All right, now I'm looking for a motion to reschedule the December 14th meeting of the regular city council meeting to December 15th.
Actually, what I was asking for
Oh, the other way?
is postponing the decision on that half into the next council meeting.
right, but my clarifying question proved that we could move forward with the 15th because you've already suggested alternative dates to your
Committee members,
committee. Right.
yes.
So we don't need to postpone, correct?
You don't need to postpone, no.
Got it.
So can we just move the date from the 14th to the 15th?
Since we only voted on the first item, then technically I think we need a vote just to reschedule since we split it.
All right, can I get a motion to reschedule the December 14th regular city council meeting to December 15th, pending any issues with the Fire Safe Council? How about that?
Yes.
Does that work? Okay. This is important stuff, folks. I need,
So
a-
we're doing, yes.
I need a motion.
Yeah, I'm happy to move what was already in the other motion to now, so that we move the meeting to the 15th.
No, but we did a separate motion on that. The other motion was to cancel the two other ones. We
It
didn't,
was also in the original motion. So.
okay, we can talk about
Who's
this
on
for the-
first?
To the 15th, we're moving it to the 15th. I move that we move it to the 15th.
I just said that.
I second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition?
Nay.
Any abstentions? Passes 5-0.
Wait a minute,
you know-
I didn't get to say my nay.
Oh, sorry.
A little bit too fast there, so.
Oh, I am
nay.
so sorry, Lou.
That's okay.
Any nays?
Nay.
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 Two.
All right.
2 nays?
4-1.
3-2.
We have
3-2.
some really complicated stuff coming up here, too. So-
Well, you should read it because you're now having a senior moment here, I think, following this stuff.
No, I'm not.
All right, so moving on. All right, now it's time for our public hearing. And the first thing is a presentation on the results of an impact assessment study on Nevada City joining the Pioneer Energy JPA for community choice aggregation. Gentlemen, welcome back.
So I will take it first, and then I will hand it off to our guest. At your August 10th meeting, you heard a report from the same gentlemen that are in front of you this evening regarding joining the Pioneer Energy JPA, and you authorized us to pay for half of an assessment or a study of what that would look like for us to join. The presentation tonight will be the results of that. This is a public hearing because should you decide to move forward, you would be adopting an ordinance that would establish community choice aggregation within Nevada City, and also adopt a resolution that would approve the city entering the Pioneer Energy JPA. So that's kind of procedurally how it would be. So after they present, then you could have public comment in the public hearing, and then certainly make your deliberations, and then decide if you want to move forward with the ordinance and the resolution, which we would do by first reading by title only, but we'll get there if we get there.
I hope so.
And with
I
that,
hope
I will
so.
hand it over to the folks that are with us tonight.
All right, thank you, Mr. City Manager, and good evening, council members and members of the public. Thanks for having us back. Tonight starts the partnership between Nevada City and Pioneer, and we're happy to start this tonight. So we do have a brief presentation. We could pull that up. Great, thank you, Madam Clerk. So next slide, please. Thank you. So just a reminder who we are. We are Joint Powers Authority. We are not for profit. This is a listing of the member agencies that we currently serve. So we started this year serving El Dorado County and the city of Placerville. So we're up to about 160,000 customer accounts, including 30,000 solar accounts there. So any solar customers, we've seen all the issues, and we'll be able to deal with that. Just a reminder, we're not a solar company looking to install systems on your homes. We're a Joint Powers Authority, not-for-profit, serving the generation portion of your energy needs. And we provide the electricity. You decide on the rates, you decide on the programs, and we, sitting on our board, you represent your taxpayers, your ratepayers, of what programs, what rates, and what kind of electricity you want to be served with. So, next slide, please. So what is in it for Nevada City? First of all, it's choice. So there's sometimes a misconception that we're coming here to replace PG&E. What you're really doing is providing your taxpayers a choice in their energy provider, something that they've never had. So PG&E will still control the poles and the wires, but what we do is we replace the generation piece. So we're the electrons that flow on those poles and wires. But whatever programs you're on with PG&E currently is not affected. If you have an issue or an outage at your house, you still call PG&E. That's not impacted, and you would not receive lesser service from PG&E because you're joining Pioneer. That's illegal for them to do that. Another benefit is local control. So as I mentioned before, Nevada City now has a say on your energy future, on your rates, on your programs, on those electrons that are flowing to your customers. And then savings. At today's rates, comparing ourselves to PG&E, you would roughly save around $200,000 a year in your businesses and residences for essentially a $15,000 upfront investment. Very nice payback in the first year. Next slide, please. So I'll start counterclockwise here, and I'll make this brief, but it's a win-win. So it has to be a win for the JPA and a win for the city. For us, we went through an impact assessment study, and I include that in the appendix of this presentation, but essentially what the study does is it looks at our rates, it looks at forward power supply prices and says, does this financially make sense for the city, and does it make sense for the JPA to join? And the answer to that study was yes. So joining us, it makes the JPA stronger financially, which means we can provide competitive and stable rates. Having a larger load, more territory also gives us better power supply options. We look then to have a stronger balance sheet to look into such as biomass projects or local programs that create jobs. Looking at starting with Nevada City benefits to the right. So if you want to have a CCA, and by joining us, you avoid all that startup capital that you would need to form your own CCA. And what that would be is you need to purchase the power up front, and there's about 2-3 months delay between when you actually receive the money from the ratepayers, and that's the working capital that you avoid by joining us. Get the savings faster. We're looking to have you on board 2024. If you did this on your own, you're probably adding 2-3 years to that timeline. And I think where we both win is more influence in Sacramento as well as San Francisco with the CPUC. We have a bigger pool of elected officials to draw from for support on issues, and you can join us with issues that are important to you, and you have a bigger pool as well. So it's a win-win. Roadmap. So in August, we were here to ask for support for the impact assessment study. We presented the results of that study to our board in September, and the Pioneer Board gave me approval then to start the process of adding Grass Valley and Nevada City to the JPA. That brings us to tonight for the first reading, as the city manager pointed out. Then in 2 weeks, we look for the second reading. Then we'll come back to our Pioneer Board on November 17th to formally amend the JPA, as well as have approval for an addendum to our implementation plan. We'll then file that implementation plan with the California Public Utilities Commission by the end of this year, and then there's a 1-year wait. So what happens in 2023? Next slide. And that 1-year wait is a requirement from the CPUC, basically because there was a lot of CCAs that came online in the last 7-8 years, and they got nervous with all this new players in the game, if you will. And so they've asked for 1-year waits in expansion to allow them to adjust. But it's also good for us because it gives us time for communications. And so in early 2023, even before we hear the results from the California Public Utilities Commission approving the implementation plan for you to join, we want to conduct a town hall meeting. I put town hall, it could be any venue you want, but and I think it would be good to combine this with Grass Valley. They voted last night for their second reading to join, so we'll see how that works out. But we definitely want to communicate with your citizens. Then in March 23, we look for the CPUC to provide that approval. It's about a 90-day wait from when we submit the plan to when they approve it. They have a maximum of 90 days, so we will know by the end of March. At that time, then, somebody from this council would be eligible to sit on the Pioneer Board, even though we wouldn't be serving you until 2024. You could be sitting on our board 8 months ahead of time from that. In July 2023, my colleague Mark Riffey, Director of Marketing, sitting in the front row here, would be launching the education and outreach campaign for the residents and businesses. And then, again, we'll be looking to provide the electrons to Nevada City in 2024. Next slide, please. I mentioned in the previous slide, there's going to be lots of education, and I think that's where I have no issues here buying the power. I have no issues with the programs or the rates. I think the The one risk for us, where this would fail, is if we don't do a good job communicating, and that's on us. We've gone through this already with El Dorado County. We feel good about lessons learned and how we want to communicate, which means start early, start often. But this slide here just talks about, there's a informal process where we would be out there, Mark's team, myself, whoever would be out there communicating with your citizens, but also there's a formal communications process that's required from the Public Utilities Commission, and there would be a first notice sent out in November. These would be postcards or even email, correct? Yeah. And then there'd be a second notice in December. Then the auto enrollment begins in January. So essentially, it would start with the first meter read cycle in the month of January. Then there's a third notice sent out in February reminding folks about this, another notice sent out in March. And in between this time, folks could opt in, they could opt out whenever they want and opt in. But then after the fourth notice, if they choose to opt out, they have to wait a year before coming back into our system. So there'll be plenty of notifications, both informally as well as formally. And then for the solar customers, there's true-up periods. So, for instance, we're right now going through El Dorado County, where in November will be the last tranche of the solar customers that are auto-enrolling, and that's just based on their true-up date. So that would be also the same that would be applied here. Next slide, please. So talked about the communications and outreach. So what we'll be doing is working with your key external stakeholders. That's all of you, as well as other stakeholders within the city. We'll be having in-person community meetings. We'll be having webinars, local radio, newspapers, social media. So wherever there's a communications channel, we'll be there. And that concludes the presentation. So as the city manager pointed out, we're looking for approval today to move forward with the first reading and the resolution. And in the appendix, I have the impact assessment study. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, I think first we need to look for, thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. I think we're going to look for public comment in the room or in cyberspace. Anybody here want to comment on this item? Come on up. Hi.
Hi. My name is Don Ravines. I am, good evening, Mayor Fleming and council members. I live at 108 Bridger Court, Grass Valley. I am the coordinator of the Nevada City 100% Renewables Committee. I'm also a member of the Energy Action Plans for Grass Valley and the county and Nevada City. I want to urge your adoption of the ordinance authorizing the implementation of a community choice aggregation program in the city of Nevada and joining the Pioneer Community Energy CCA. Though the CCA doesn't necessarily reduce the amount of electricity used, it will help meet the Nevada City Energy Action Plan goal of reducing the cost of electricity to its citizens. Furthermore, the Green 100 option of the CCA, which means that the 100% of, if you sign up for that, you will, that amount of energy, the electricity used, will go for renewable in the future. So it gets a bigger pool that they're able to purchase more renewable energy in the future. So the Green 100 option of the CCA will require Pioneer Community Energy to purchase more renewable energy and reduce the overall over 50% portion of electricity that is obtained from unspecified power sources. At the moment, they're reaching the goals of the state of California, the RPS goals, in terms of what percentage they have to have. They have to have 60% by 2030, so therefore this is the Green 100 is incentive to help them reach that goal. I would suggest you encourage citizens to sign up for the Green 100 option, and by obtaining a grant to subsidize the cost of Green 100 for low-income households and households that cannot qualify for solar. So it may be a way to help more people sign up for the Green 100. As you mentioned, Tuesday night, Grass Valley adopted their plan, the CCA, and our energy action plan for Nevada County. We are pushing the county right now to join the CCA also. It'll make it much nicer if we don't worry about where the sphere of influence ends and where the next county starts, et cetera, whether the whole county was all part of the same plan and working together. One of the problems we've had with PG&E currently on the Energy Action Plan is we're unable to get any measurements from them as to exactly where they stand in terms of how much electricity is being used. So we couldn't tell while we're meeting our goals per year of whether we're reaching the renewable goals. So this way, with this policy, we'll be able to have the information we need in order to do the correct measurements and reach the goals that we need. So I hope you go ahead and adopt this proposal. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Done. Is there anybody else who would like to comment on this item? If not, is there anybody out there in the cyber world?
If you would like to speak on this topic, please raise your hand. We do not, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, I'm going to look to the council. Is there anybody who wants to start out on this, or I'll just go around? Lou, you have anything you'd like to ask these gentlemen or comment on?
I would like to ask, is there any study that you've done that has come back negatively, that this would not be a good idea? I know that was not the case for us, but has it ever happened?
Yeah, so the only time we've done this would be when we launched the original in Placer County. It came back positive. Where it could come back negative is if we're launching at a time when there's a real rise in power supply prices and our current rates. That could be where the results will come back negative. That's not the case. So we've done it with Placer. We then did another study with El Dorado, came back positive. But there's that risk that it could come back negative. It's a lot of it has to do with market timing, but we'll adjust if needed. But no, anyway, for the history of Pioneer, it has not come back negative.
Oh, good. But it's good to know that you're checking, because studies that always come back positive raise my suspicions.
Yeah. Daniela.
Yeah, I saw you shaking your head when Don was talking about PG&E not offering transparency around how much power is being used. Do you ever see that being an issue?
Absolutely not. So that being a public agency, we have elected officials on our board. It's all about transparency. So whatever data you want, you'll get.
That's pleasing to hear, because there's been anything but. I think I really appreciate the emphasis on choice, and also the Green 100 option is super, super excited. I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Daniela. Gary.
Yeah, sure. I spoke plenty last time, but I think this is a really good program, good for the city. Absolutely support other options for obtaining energy. And if you recall, it's kind of like, you've been around for a while, but it used to be nobody would use recycling paper because it cost too much. Until enough people started using recycling paper that the cost went down, and that's where we are with the green power. It's going to work the same way. We're not going to get there until we begin to buy it and use it, and the investment begins to pay. So, but the savings are real. I was intimately involved with the development of Central Coast Power, and it's just watching the process and understanding the process. It would be really hard to get a negative report because of the way the CCAs are structured. You're going to save money because you're not paying shareholders. So that's pretty much it. So, but I absolutely support it 110%. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Adam.
Thanks. You mentioned biomass. Do you have any timeline in mind for that? Where are you at with that?
Yeah, so we had last year a nice win, Assembly Bill 843, that allows us to have small biomass projects that are funded through a public purpose funds through PG&E, and basically can get very expensive biomass projects with little impact to our current rates. Right now, we're waiting for that to move through the CPUC. In the meantime, we've got 2 projects lined up, and probably a third or a fourth that are in the wings. So as soon as we get that legislation turned into actual procedures through the CPUC, we've got the developers ready to go. So we've got one located in Lincoln with the Waste Management Authority, another in El Dorado County, and then a few others that were more in concept phase. But we're ready to go.
So I'm just going to push on that. And this doesn't have to be a hard line answer, but are we talking a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years?
So figure that if we can get resolution through the CPUC by first half of 2023, takes about 2 to 3 years to build the plant, and we would be ready to go from there. But we've got the, really the power purchase agreements. We're already pre-negotiating those, so it's just a matter of getting the procedures through the CPUC and then figure about 2 to 3 years to build the plant.
Great, thank you.
Can you speak to, so we'd still be using PG&E's wires, poles, so forth. Would people be paying two bills, one smaller than usual bill to PG&E and one smaller than usual bill to you, or would we all pay it all to you and you pay PG&E for the use of the poles and wires?
So it's more of the other where you pay PG&E and PG&E pays us.
Oh.
So there'll be and we'll go through all this through the education part, but you'll see it on the bill, a few line items that are for Pioneer. And then when you pay PG&E, PG&E then sends the dollars that are Pioneer to us.
But that's at a, I'm sorry, you finished?
I'm good.
But that's at a different rate. So the only difference would be that you've negotiated, by aggregating everybody, and you're negotiating a better rate for us, so we pay that lower rate to PG&E.
Correct.
Okay.
That's right.
And
So you're not getting two bills that you're having, one from Pioneer and then another bill coming every month from PG&E.
but they're still doing the billing.
That's right. That's correct.
So when you talk about choice, the choice is between Pioneer and PG&E, right?
That's right.
All right, and then you said we have a lot of control on the rate. So with this $200,000 a year savings, we could theoretically or realistically pass that on to our residents, right?
Absolutely.
And so that is where that is the savings that goes on. And can you give us, sort of a ballpark of what that would save the average ratepayer? Is it 10%? Is it 5? Is it, 50?
So the average rate, so in Placer County right now, and the only difference between Placer and El Dorado, we charge the same generation rate. The only difference is called the power charge and difference adjustment, which is an exit fee, which we could spend all night on that one. But that really is the difference, and that's paid to PG&E, so that's not our fee. But that's the only difference between the two counties as far as savings goes. But right now, Placer County is receiving 10% savings to PG&E, and El Dorado is having 6% savings to PG&E. And so we're talking about, for El Dorado County alone, first year savings is around $6.5 million per businesses and residences. For Placer County, we're looking at about, was it about 14 million? Yeah, so in total, 20 million in 1 year alone.
That's
So
countywide though, right?
That's countywide for both, yes.
Yeah, in bigger counties than us.
But when we did the impact assessment study, we looked at it with our current rates at our forward power supply prices, and that's how we came up with the $200,000 savings for you.
So that's pretty solid, right?
Yeah.
You talked about the upfront investment. You were talking about that as if we were doing this on our own, or this upfront investment of $15,000.
So the upfront investment for the $15,000 was the impact assessment study. What I meant there on the slide would be if you were doing this on your own, as your own, develop your own CCA, the working capital that you would need upfront, not only to start your own CCA,
Load it. Yeah.
but also the biggest issue would be the timing difference between power supply and receiving the funds. And so that can get pretty expensive really fast. So.
Yeah, we're not probably equipped to do that. And then the JPA, so you do a JPA in every county? Is that the idea? You have a bunch of different JPAs?
No, so it's one JPA.
Oh, it is, okay.
You join the JPA, and what the board does is then make a decision in November to allow you to join our JPA. And then the CPUC, by the end of March, would approve our implementation plan that says that it is okay for you to join us, and that's when everything becomes official. But there's not a JPA for every member agency.
Okay, so that's El Dorado, that's Placer County. Do you have all the cities in both of those counties?
I do. So the incorporated city, Placerville, is part of us, and then any part of the county that is PG&E territory. So what we don't include are any cities that would be located in Liberty Utilities. That's just, CPUC has not developed the infrastructure, the exit fees, terminology, and all that good stuff to be able to work with Liberty Utilities. So I think it's something that Placer County for sure wants us to look into that.
Sure.
But it's a battle down the road for us.
Sure. What's up with the county? Or Nevada County, I'm sorry, the county.
Yeah, so we look forward to having them come on board 2025. I think what happened was, I think we're competing with other issues there, and I think they wanted more time to go through communications outreach work for us. So we definitely want them to join. I think they wanted to join. I think just timing wasn't right, and there was competing of issues. But we look forward to bringing them on in 2025.
And that's an important part of this equation is that savings based on the county coming in, or that's just things as it is?
That's just for Nevada.
Just for Nevada City,
yes.
okay. All right, the question?
And the county joining has no impact on you joining.
Yeah. We do this in a few different areas. And so, Mark, you're going to be doing outreach and education. Okay, so it sounds like that's a big component of this. Is that just because people are scared of change and, they don't understand this is new? Do you think they're going to get?
Probably all the above, right? So there is always the component of change, and people have been using PG&E only since the beginning of time. So the concept of CCAs is relatively new, and up here in the foothills, it's very new, as well as just education and awareness, because you are getting a PG&E bill. And the way the bills are laid out, there's two lines on the bill that Don was talking about. It says PG&E charges, Pioneer charges. So to the average person observing it, it's a double charge. Oh, you're charging me extra. Well, the reality of the matter is, I think one of you was talking about, if you add them together, it's cheaper than what it was if it was just the PG&E. But it's education of that. Same as solar. A lot of solar customers think, I have to opt out. A lot of solar customers are told by solar vendors, you can't be a CCA customer if you're a solar customer, and that's just not a true statement. So it's about educating customers, educating the residents, educating the businesses, so they can make the decision that's best for them and their families. We don't go out there to say, I need to convince you to join Pioneer, because we don't have shareholders, we don't have profit. Our objective is to be a resource for individuals and businesses to provide them the information necessary to make the decision that's best for them and their family. That's just like the Green 100. There are people out there that are adamant, I have to be Green 100. And there's others that say, I don't care about that. And it's our objective to make you aware of what's out there. Just like with these income qualified programs that are statewide programs. We want to educate our residents who might benefit from those programs, that these are available to them, and take advantage of that. We're doing education and outreach with folks right now just to make them aware of, when you go out to a solar contractor, ask these questions. Don't just go blindly. Our website is a resource. If you go there now, there's things to consider before you buy an electric vehicle. There's things to consider before you buy solar. It's not telling you to go one way or the other. It's just things to consider. That does not impact us in the least bit. It's just we want to help provide the information so customers can make the best decision for them. And it's an ongoing thing. We've been in Placer County since 2018. We're still educating our Placer County folks. Sure. And it's not going to stop. El Dorado, we're almost done with our enrollment phase. We're continuing that education. We're going to start Nevada City, Grass Valley, early 23. We're not going to be done. That's just going to be ongoing. So the education is never ending, and it's just growing. And as far as how we're doing it, the beauty of the internet is we can do webinars and touch all of our customers, because solar is solar. The amount of trees up here in Nevada City are different than the ones that are down in El Dorado Hills, but you should still ask your contractor the same questions.
Sure. I'm a little confused on the Green 100. It sounds very good. Is that a different option that people have? They can opt for the power coming from the Green 100, or is everything Green 100?
So when you have a program, we have two options as far as the mix. We have our standard mix, and that is what we buy and all of our customers get. It's just part of our portfolio. And then those customers, residential or commercial, that want to have 100% of their energy come from renewable sources can elect to sign up for the Green 100 program. It's 100% optional, and it's an election that they make. And then whatever your usage is on your bill, that will come from renewable sources.
Is it a little bit more expensive to do green?
Today, it's 1.088 cents more, and the average customer, that's about $6 to $7 a month for residential customers.
That's worth it for me. What kind of percentage enrollment are you getting in the counties? Just, is it, 90% of the people?
So overall, we're about 84 to 85%. We have some communities that are into the 90s.
Wow, okay.
And our goal set up by the strategic plan is 92%, and that's what we're working towards.
That's awesome. And then solar, it's just, I mean, there's not, I mean, you're not paying anything to PG&E because you're using solar unless you're truing up and all that. It's the same thing, right?
You still pay PG&E for the transmission and distribution of
That
anything.
$5 or whatever?
Well, that's their set fee, but if you do end up having to fill the gaps in by buying from the grid, you're going to have to pay PG&E for that transmission and distribution.
Oh, I know.
The energy, yeah, the energy part will come from Pioneer.
Okay, that's awesome. And then this doesn't help us with PSPS at all, because if the power goes out with PG&E, we're still,
It helps in the sense of the fact that we're now advocating on behalf of our customers, and we're taking actions. We've done things that have actually gotten the attention of the chairperson at the PUC, how the folks in El Dorado County were treated with EPSSs and PSPS events. I'll just real quick give you the example. We're in Georgetown, Georgetown, I'm sure you've all been there, hopefully once or twice, and we're in a meeting with 10, 11 people, and those folks started talking about outages that were occurring, and we had never heard of those, and we weren't serving El Dorado County at this time. And we went back and started looking into it, and the folks at PG&E didn't know what was going on. Well, we turned out it was what is now known as the fast trips, the EPSSs. And so we started advocating and started making phone calls, not to the 800 numbers, to the folks that we know and whatnot. We started connecting, and Don mentioned about, political resources. We had folks at the county and others reaching out as well. And before long, the chairperson of the CPUC was chastising PG&E and referencing the treatment of El Dorado County residents and the folks at Georgetown. So by us advocating and fighting for the rights of our customers and our regions that we're serving, it leads to actions. And now PG&E is being required to treat EPSSs similar to how they're doing PSPSs, which they were not doing as of a year ago. They weren't required to. So we do influence it because we listen to our customers and we try to fight for our customers.
that's awesome. Thanks so much. I really appreciate the answers to the questions. And, one last thing, is there a way to incentivize, your residents to go with the Green 100? I mean, obviously, it's a little bit more money. I mean, we could subsidize it. We could pass some of that savings on to them, or are there ways that people are trying to game the system to get everybody into the
The
green?
incentive is that it's renewable energy.
Well, that's an incentive to us, but to
Sure.
somebody who's like, watching their budget, it might be a little bit of money, right?
I would say, and if you want to speak to it, you can certainly. Okay.
So this would be an example of you deciding a program that would do that. And you sitting on our board, you can have that input to develop that program that could subsidize folks to be on the Green 100. So that's an example of the local control.
That's great. That's great. All right, I'm done. Thank you. Anybody else with last? Gary, you guys, all right, I'm looking for a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh, sorry.
it's airborne. Because these are two significant and pretty distinct actions, I'm going to request that each of these been taken separately. So the first, it doesn't make a difference which order, but taking ordinance 2022, the first read, waive and read by title only as a separate roll call vote, and then resolution 2022-64, please.
Okay, fair enough.
I move that we do the one with the first reading.
Second.
All right, I'm going to ask.
More than that?
I'll just restate it for Councilmember. So if it is, as I understand it, did you start with the ordinance? I'm sorry?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I did.
A motion to hold the first reading of ordinance 2022-12 by title only, namely an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Nevada City authorizing the implementation of a community choice aggregation program in the City of Nevada City.
Thank you.
Do we need a second?
Second.
So, who's doing it?
I did it already, but
Okay,
I'm happy.
okay, who's doing the second? All right.
I thought we
Can we get a roll call on this one? Sorry. It's confusing.
An interesting evening.
Councilmember Cece.
Yes.
Councilmember Klein.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fernandez.
Yes.
And Mayor Fleming.
Yes.
So who has the first and who has the second?
I had the
Daniela,
first.
sorry.
Peterson and
Peterson and
Fernandez.
Fernandez.
Pucci and Fernandez.
All right, would you read us into the second one?
And the second, if the council is so inclined, would be a motion to approve Resolution 2022-64, resolution of the City of Nevada City requesting membership in Pioneer Community Energy and approving the amended and restated joint exercise of powers agreement and amendment number 2 thereto.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right.
Okay.
And roll call votes. This is important.
Councilmember Cece.
Yes.
Councilmember Klein.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fernandez.
Yes.
And Mayor Fleming.
Yes. Two. All right. There we go. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it.
It's exciting.
Don's happy, too. That's always a good thing. He's very excited. Okay, moving on, folks. What's next? All right, we're going to business. All right. Is it item number 8? Yep. All right. So item number 8 is consideration of a short-term business development and sustainability fee waiver program in an amount not to exceed $40,000. And I'm going to turn it over to Sean Grayson.
Thank you. In our initial strategic planning workshop, the idea of supporting businesses to secure parklet dining, adding signage or doing other business to enhance business activities throughout the
I'm sorry, there's candy. Can you
Take his
pause.
All right, sorry.
That's all right.
Candy.
I'll wait till it goes all the way around.
You said it was okay.
It's really sad that
Wait till
candy
next
disrupts
Monday.
this council meeting, but I love it, though. Thank you. We got legal clearance on this.
Gotta make sure I know everything that's in here.
Get the Snickers, get the Snickers.
We could go back and discuss the. All right.
All right.
Oh, I didn't mean to take all this.
So, and in the draft strategic plan, you adopted an initiative for a strategic initiative of business support. And this action before you tonight is kind of a amalgamation of those requests that came at those various times. What we had discussed in the strategic planning process is largely that we would take the planning approach first before we took action on things. This is a small measured approach to address what the council had brought up for business support that we can do now while we're making the long-term plan. So this is a short-term action, be a maximum of $40,000 for the entire program. It would start tomorrow, would run through the end of the fiscal year, June 30, 2023, or until the $40,000 was exhausted. It would give up to $2,000 in fee waivers of city fees in specific categories to an existing business in good standing in the city, or to someone that wanted to start a business. They could use it to get their business license and apply for various things. So the categories of fees that are eligible are business license or home occupation permit, conditional use permit, which that would specifically apply to those that were doing private property outdoor dining need a conditional use permit to be able to continue to do that, so that would apply there. Minor architectural review, which could be like for like change. Architectural review, non-residential. Sign review, encroachment permit for parklet or sidewalk dining. Encroachment fees for parklet dining. In lieu parking fees. Rental fees for business use of Siemens Lodge, or special event fees for business generating events in the city. So those are the categories. None of our other fees, no taxes, no other activities, nothing that was already payable and late, and nothing that had already been paid would be applied. Just examples of where that might be used would be clearly to develop an outdoor dining parklet, install a new sign at an existing business, spruce up the place, or a new sign at a business that might want to open up, obtain a new business license, get a conditional use permit for outdoor dining, like we said, repaint or remodel an existing business. I think there was a caller in public comment that talked about peeling paint. You have to get a permit to do many things in the city, so that even if it's small dollars, a $200 permit, if you get a fee waiver for it, it's $200 that you could put into painting. Adding to an existing business and implement outdoor sidewalk dining. Just some examples of what this could be used for. So we certainly anticipate that other programs coming out of strategic planning will use American Rescue Act plan funds, or that we would request that you let us use those. We're not requesting that in this case because while this could incur a cost to the city, it would be a cost against unrealized revenues. So in other words, we're not paying money out of the city's budget, but we could realize up to $40,000 less in revenues. So we would make that adjustment in the mid-year budget. But since it's not cash, so to speak, we're not asking you to apply those ARPA funds. So with that, obviously open to any questions, but would appreciate your support in approving this program tonight.
Thank you, Sean. We're going to ask for public comment in the room and then ask for public comment online, and then we'll chat about it. None?
In the hall.
None in the room?
None, I know that.
Any online?
Thanks for that clarity.
Yeah. If you'd like to speak on this item, please raise your hand.
Okay. All right. Gary, take it away. Oh, he's learning.
What did they say about old Doug's?
I did that. That was bad on my part.
They still bite.
That was
Nice
good.
comeback.
Nice.
I actually requested this, having observed when this issue, I think, sort of surfaced when we first did the new permits for the outdoor dining and stuff, and we realized, I think, that there was something that needed to be done by us, or that we needed to consider, and then we did the strategic planning, and it got caught up in there. But I had a conversation with Stuart from the chamber, and he talked about these issues, and I went to Sean, and because we have such a brilliant city manager, he was able to take my half-baked ideas and turn them into a fully fledged program that looks like it might actually work. It's the issue is about fairness and how it is. So the way it addresses all of the businesses, and not just downtown, but in Seven Hills and all that. So I really like the way it's constructed. But I think this is an opportunity for us it gives us an opportunity to see if our policies are going to work without, while reducing the risk for the people that are going to step out and try and implement our policies. It also allows us to take it up at the budget and understand the consequences of this program and whether it works and how it's going to bring things back. The timing is very good to give us 6 months, and we can revisit it in the budget as to renewing it or however we choose to do it. I also think it starts to establish partnerships with the businesses in the city that are useful in many ways. So there's just a lot of good things about it. Really important. It wasn't that we were giving cash, but that these were fees that may or may not come in. So it's much easier to handle it that way. So I do really appreciate Sean's work on this and Doug in supporting it as well, because in order to get it on the agenda, we'll get the mayor's sign off as well. So I think this is a really good program that demonstrates a lot of goodwill and a lot of support. So.
Thank you, Gary. Anybody else? Lou, go ahead. You look like you're ready.
Yeah, you obviously chose the $40,000 figure for a reason. Do you have any expectations that will exceed that?
I would hope that I'd be coming back to you saying that we anticipate exceeding it, and I would request that you would increase it. I think I set it at a level that I don't think we'll actually hit. I think, if you said it's 20 businesses at $2,000 a piece, and we have, 200 businesses, but not all of those have storefronts. Not all of those are going to pull permits or use the full $2,000. So I think we'll get more than 20 applications, but they'll be far below the $2,000. So that's actually above my best guess for what we would actually see. But if we saw more than that, then I think that would be suggest that you're incentivizing growth or stabilization of business, and I would be happy to bring that back to you.
Cool. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilmember Peterson, thank you so much for this request. It was also my request, so I'm happy to see that we are supporting businesses, and it's true. It's true. We both bite, huh? I lost my train of thought. It's amazing the experience of being on this council and offering direction to staff, and then just a few meetings later, there is policy ready to move forward. And that is super, super exciting, and I want to thank you guys for that, because we're getting stuff done. And that's exciting. Question, how are we getting word out about this? Or are we? Or is it just like as folks apply, we educate them on this option, or will we promote it?
We'll promote it, but we're really going to ask our partners to promote it. You know, the chamber, not just for the chamber members, but they have for the Downtown Merchant Association and for the Seven Hills Merchant Group. They have a relatively robust email group that includes almost all of the businesses in town, all the ones that really have a storefront. And many that are just home-based businesses as well. So we will advertise it, but we'll ask them to do the same. And it's going to be very easy. It's going to be a send me an email requests. I'll tell you that it is consistent with this item, and then I will send that along to planning or to the front desk as basically a fee credit. So when they come in and fill out the paperwork, it'll be ready for them to do that. So.
Great.
Won't, not overly burdensome with a whole bunch of, you know, insurance and paperwork and that kind of thing. So.
Yeah, and I just think this is really exciting that the city's able to offer this in partnership in support of our businesses. Thank you.
I was going to ask about how we're letting them know about this as well, which
Communication.
just goes to show sometimes good minds think adjacent to great minds. So
Couldn't have said it better myself, Adam.
I think this is phenomenal. We talked a bunch about supporting our businesses. Here we are. Look what we did. I think it's great. Thanks.
But
Adam, I laughed at you twice tonight.
Adam, you know, this, yeah. To Daniela's point and your point, this didn't happen before. This did not happen at all, not even close to it.
So many things
Lou
didn't
and I
happen.
can't take all the credit. That's very
So
sweet.
you guys have brought in this new era.
Didn't laugh at that one.
Just listen to our former mayor.
Getting done.
How nothing ever got done, but he.
Yeah, well, you know, and I thought I brought this up, but I guess I think we all asked for it in the sense that we weren't going to do stuff for it.
But I think the real point is that the actions are happening, and it's not just words anymore, but it's actually turning into policy, and that's what we're after.
And, you know, it came from, you know, we were going to give a lot of love to the restaurants, and then we had to, you know, make it a little bit fair. Yeah, you get it. But one question I have is, and I had communication as one of my questions too. What I love is the new businesses incentivization, because, you know, that is, you know, somebody choosing between Grass Valley and Nevada City. Well, there's not a choice, but
That came from Councilmember Klein at the last meeting. He said it more eloquently than me, that we should steal business, so.
yeah, there you go. See, Adams brings so much to the table. But no, but we want to incentivize people to come here and make it a little bit easier for them to come and for people to recover from COVID. One question I have is, how would this apply to our friends over at the Piety Cottages that we've talked to about their issues?
So it would if they only remodeled some of the units there, and they're planning to do more, I believe, starting in January.
Yes.
So when they pull, not the county permits for the building, but if they have architectural review or sign review or any of those other things related, they can apply it to those fees that would be due to the city.
Excellent, because, yeah, I just want to make sure everybody got a little love in this thing.
Hopefully, it can apply to anybody that would like to open a business, expand a business, add a sign, pay their business license, or do anything with paint or architecture.
Would this apply to home-based businesses?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Cool. Well, I get a waiver of my business license. I don't need one anymore, but, all right, that is wonderful. I really think this is exciting. To everybody else's points, I just have to agree with that we're getting stuff done. All right, I am looking for a motion.
I move to approve the fee waiver and authorize the city manager to implement the program.
Dude, that was perfect. That was perfect.
Second.
Oh, wow. All those in favor?
Do we do public comment?
We did not. Oh, my goodness. Is there any public comment?
Yes, we did. No one had anything to say.
Oh, yeah, we
It was a
did.
ghost
We did,
town.
you're right.
We did. See, I'm on it.
And Gabby can do a roll call now.
Councilmember Cece,
Yes.
Councilmember Klein,
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fernandez.
Yes.
Always pause with you. And Mayor Fleming.
Yes.
Passes 5-0. All right, moving on to item 9, consideration of resolution 2022-65, a resolution of Nevada City approving a memorandum of understanding between the County of Nevada and the City of Nevada City for wildfire prevention, emergency service, and disaster readiness programs and projects. Sean, take it away.
Get paid by the word in the resolution. So yesterday, I had the honor of presenting in front of the Board of Supervisors, and they approved their end of this MOU. We're the last item to go at the end of the day, which was nice. We didn't have to, sit there and wait all day, but I've been involved in this process since I got here. Not exactly since the inception. They've been talking about it. It was a board priority coming out of the last year's retreat. But the board put on the November 8th ballot what we call Measure V, but it's funding for wildfire prevention, emergency services, and disaster readiness. It's a half-cent sales tax that countywide would generate approximately $12 million a year. Goes to the buckets is what they're referring to them, or the areas of planning, preparedness, and prevention, mitigation, response, and recovery efforts. On the ballot, it's a general tax measure. It has a citizens oversight committee to review expenditures, and it has technical advisory committees, one for West County, one for East County, that recommend actions, projects, and activities to the Board of Supervisors, who will then implement those funds that are under their control. And we'll talk a little bit about what's under our control and what's under their control. We've been working with the county on allocating funds, and this MOU before you tonight memorializes not just the funds, but the obligations that the city has in that regard. So the MOU would memorialize the county's investment of 4.17% of the value of the annual measure. That's approximately $500,000, which is an easier round number than 4.17%. That's based on the 12 million. And so it would go to the city or be used within the city and our sphere of influence. And that's broken down that the county will directly pay us in quarterly payments, 3.1% of that, or approximately $372,000 a year. And we have to spend that money within the program allocations, but at our discretion, and we'll do that through an implementation plan that we will vet through the Fire Safety Advisory Committee with their comments and input, and then ultimately bring to the council to adopt that implementation plan. That way there's, it is an agreement between the board and the council, and that way you have an annual approval of what we will be doing with those funds. And then the additional balance is 1.07% of the measure, also easier to say 128,000. And that will be under the county's control through the Board of Supervisors and annual allocation, but really rely on that technical advisory committee to make recommendations of what to use. That's a small amount of money, but it's much larger when you talk about Grass Valley, Truckee, and the rest of the county. And so that fund, that will do two things. One, it will allow for projects that cross borders, and it will also allow, we can use that money to pay, for example, Nevada City's contribution to a countywide CWPP or other planning instruments. So that wouldn't come out of the city's direct allocation. So the things that we have basically outlined that we would do that are not necessarily unique to Nevada City, but specific to addressing the items are, we would maintain an all hazards emergency preparedness webpage. This will be aligned with the county's same webpage. Grass Valley will do the same. Truckee will do the same. It'll have Nevada City specific items, but it'll also have resources for the rest of the county. That's something that the Fire Safety Advisory Committee has already recommended and placed on our website, and we'll be updating soon, but this will have many more resources. And the reality is that everyone that lives in the 95959 zip code thinks they live in Nevada City, whether they're downtown or in the town of Washington.
They
I
do
get
live in
phone
Nevada
calls.
City.
The
They
incorporated,
do live in
the
Nevada City, just
incorporated
not
part
in-
of the city.
yeah.
Yes,
City limits.
exactly. But they won't necessarily be getting this direct funding because this is for our city and our sphere. But the messaging should be uniform as far as the use of these funds. We've also, we'll be doing annual mailers, which will be changing from our newsletter next year for our January, February newsletter from inserted in the utility billing to a mailing to all addresses, all mailboxes in the city anyway. So that process we'll be able to use for this. We'll be conducting annual driving drills of escape routes, and that was something that was very high on the list from Paradise. That you can have as many escape routes as you want if you've never exercised them, and people have never driven down them. When they're full of traffic, it just won't work the way you intend it to. So,
Can I ask you a question about that?
of course.
I've been told that escape routes are kind of absurd just because there's so many variables in terms of which direction the fire is coming from, which direction can you go. There's just that we can't possibly anticipate where.
I would agree you can't possibly anticipate where. However, you can have plans for wherever it is, you would direct people to, whatever it is. And then if you know that that road has a certain capacity and the fire is in this location, and you can put someone that says, go that way instead of this way, and people have driven on the roads in high saturation times, then you can reasonably predict that they'll get there. Assuming you have an emergency alerting system that
Right.
can wake them up and get them out on the road.
Tell them about your plan with the Root Center folks and.
So what I offered to the board was that they would just order the county CEO to tell everyone to leave the Root Center at one time and drive to downtown Nevada City, since essentially all escape routes go through one of the cities. And we'll see how bad a traffic jam it creates. And then the police department is fixing up the cooking trailer donated by the fire department, and we're gonna do hot dogs, hamburgers, and that kind of thing.
Make sure we get
for
some
those
drone
folks.
footage of that.
But I mean, that's a real, it's a real possibility. So that's the kind of thing there. Support for Firewise communities, that is one of the items that's in the measure, and we'll do that through the Fire Safety Advisory Committee. That's one of its tenets in the first place. Conduct annual defensible space inspections. We did all of our parcels this year. We learned a lot. We have a good database here. We've also learned that we didn't learn as much as we thought we would learn because we didn't see the parcels from all sides, so there's a lot to learn there. We'll create a fuels mitigation program for protection of critical infrastructure and the city-owned property. So basically inventory everything, say what the fuels abatement should be within the city, and create intervals for those. And while $372,000 isn't a ton of money, it should be enough for us to have somebody that is running our masticator or piece of heavy equipment year-round to be, taking up Scotch broom and blackberries and clearing the sides of roadways and limbing up trees and, hardening our defensible space. So, and then we'll implement, a part of the countywide initiative is a large-scale green waste program. And so we will likely leverage what Nevada County Consolidated has already done, which is rotating green waste dumpster drop-offs, because you can't possibly fit, snowmageddon storm debris into your little green waste tote that comes every 2 weeks. And then there's also some lessons learned. I think a caller from last meeting brought up, actually it was a caller from the board yesterday brought up that some of the successful programs, they place those, but then people will only take their green waste so far. And it's about 60 feet from their house, apparently. And so instead, maybe we just say, hey, just bring it out to the curb. And then we take the backhoe, right? And we just scoop it all up and put it in the green waste dumpster. And then we rotate to the next neighborhood, whatever it takes to get the green waste away.
That's service.
And we'll keep our community chipping program. And then part of it is that we will create a Nevada City Recovery Fund. be a small dollar value, but a small percentage of what we get. But, you know, it's that idea that the county's going to have a very large recovery fund for these big fires, but it doesn't do probably anything for the one person that has a small vegetation fire that takes them out of their house. We could help them with that kind of thing. So that's kind of broad strokes of the things that are the obligations, but certainly will be subject to you being able to change what we're going to do with that money on an annual basis with the implementation plan. So like I said, the board approved it last night. We went last. The board was very appreciative of this council and the community's efforts in regard to partnership and just globally supporting all things wildfire prevention. The Chamber of Commerce has been active in supporting this kind of initiative, Fire Safety Advisory Committee, and a variety of others. Not the measure itself, but just the idea of, you know, that we need to do something in this space. So with that, we'd recommend you adopt the resolution and which approves the MOU, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John. First, we're going to check for public comment. Is there any public comment in the room or in cyberspace?
If you'd like to speak on this topic, please raise your hand.
Well,
All
I
right.
figured.
Nope.
Adam, would
Oh,
you like?
wait,
Oh,
wait,
wait.
You're a little slow on the uptake, Matthew. Okay, go ahead, Matthew.
Hi, Matthew.
Go ahead, Matthew.
Can't hear you yet.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm just a little skeptical in the Measure B and the general fund and what the county has to offer the cities in regard to it. I've just watched for so many years of them squandering money, and you know, we've been through the Beatles, we've been through drought, and it just seems like now we're talking about it. Even the word evacuation, they wouldn't even consider it for years, and now they're talking about it somewhat. The way I look at it, the wind blows usually 4 different directions, north, south, east, or west, and we have only a certain number of roads to escape from. So my idea was to have painted dots on the roads, north, south, east, west, color-coded, and people could evacuate per color one of those 4 directions away from the fire. But as we see, like in Paradise, one broken down vehicle is going to clog the road and kind of put the whole evacuation thing to the end. So I think anything you can do, including evacuation, is a good thing, just to bring awareness to it and keep people on their toes. That fire that happened in Grass Valley today, I don't know if you're aware of that. You know, that was capable of blocking an evacuation route. So there has to be contingency plans, and let's just keep practicing, keep being aware of it. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. Okay, would anybody at the table like to? Pretty straightforward. We've heard a lot of information on both sides of the V issue. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I went through the MOU really, really carefully, and I think the important part is that the larger sum of money, the 3.1%, is that right? We have, it's very open for us to use that money in the way that we determine is the best use with a plan. But we will also be held accountable for the use of that funding, just as the county will be held accountable for the use of that funding. And it is not, a general fund is not just a big bucket where you pour money and then take it out. So it is easily charted and accounted for. That's just a case. My question to Sean earlier, and so we're getting about, let's see, what am I going to say? I'm going to say we're getting about 402,000, something like that?
500,000.
500,000.
Yeah, 372 direct allocation,
Yeah.
128 to the TAC.
And 128, so we're right around 500. And how much is of our sales tax is going away to pay for that?
So we won't lose any sales tax, but as if we were to put on a half-cent sales
Yeah,
tax.
that's the question, yeah.
In other words, what is generated in Nevada City from that? It would probably be in the order of $700,000 to $750,000 by the time this goes into effect next April. And the way I would measure that would be that our current Measure M, our former Measure S, is a half-cent sales tax in the city, and
Yeah,
that's what
okay,
it's
good.
anticipated to generate.
Good, because, I mean, it's really about the balance of that. You know, if we did it in, are we getting a fair shake and a fair return? Which was some of the conversations that Doug and I had with the county very early on about this. And the county was clear that they heard us and that they were going to work with us on this. And I feel, I mean, if we get 500,000 of say 700, that's a good, that is an excellent return for us, because we're going to make up the rest of that funding through regional planning, regional activities that are essential to planning for large wildfire disasters. So that's going to come back to us too. So I felt really strong and comfortable with the MOU and the way that it's written. And I don't know if you saw my op-ed piece in the paper recently, but you know, this country spent 2/3 of its money on suppression and only about 1/3 of it on prevention, including fuel management. And when it comes to fire, you know, it's three things. It's weather, it's fuel, and it's topography. And you can't do anything about the weather, and you can't do anything about the topography, but we can manage fuel. And that's what this is for, and that's what we need to do. So I just, you know, I don't know. I know people don't like taxes, and that's why they oppose these things, but this seems pretty danged important to me.
Here, here.
Adam, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add.
Lou?
Just some points of clarification. In the staff report, on the response section, the second bullet starts with the partner for expanded law enforcement. Could you clarify what you meant by that?
So that item is for law enforcement and civilian training. So we're going to partner with the county in Grass Valley and Truckee, or whoever is going to be leading that, to provide training to our law enforcement and or additional training to our law enforcement and civilian staff. And that could be in all realms of emergency management. But as we develop coordinated plans, especially the emergency operations plan, that will be the same for the city and for the county, so that when the EOC is opened at the county and they're representing us, our staff is trained to implement that, or evacuation planning for our police department. While, you know, it's pretty easy here, they may be tasked to assist, you know, outside of our boundaries. And so that training is that partnership that we're talking about there.
Okay, cool. That explains it very clearly. The other point of clarification was that under recovery, it says the fund would be for city needs, but earlier it says that we might be giving financial assistance to individuals and to address survivors' immediate needs. So I want to make sure that when you say the city needs, you're not just saying the government's needs, but
Correct.
individual citizens.
Not the government. It would be intended for the needs of the community, but trying to differentiate in that statement that the county will also have a recovery fund, and so our fund would be intended to be used locally. But if there's a big fire in North San Juan, and you know, unfortunately, you lose 20 homes, and that fund is taxed, you may wish to use some of our local recovery fund to help them out for a period of time. So that's what that would be. So not the city's needs. It would not be used. The recovery fund would not be for the city government purposes. It would be for our community.
Cool. That's exactly what I was hoping for. Thank you.
Daniela?
No additional comments.
Okay. I think that this is, one of the things I just want to note, and I think we all know this, but just for the viewing public, is that, we didn't take an adversarial approach with the county with this. We used the get more flies with honey kind of approach, and I think that did pay off for us. I mean, I think that when this started out, we were talking about, it was, a couple 100,000? And now it's, and this is also the fact that, Grass Valley and Truckee, made a little bit of to do about it. But I just liked our approach, and I think that's, we're not going to bend over, but, it's nice to work with your partners and support them, and they really noticed that by their comments to you at the recent meeting, and I've heard it from Heidi. But I'm sorry that we didn't know about that. I was there for the breakfast, and I would have stayed all day had I known you were going to be there presenting to the board. And one of the things I want to ask about is the allocations, because I recall that there were certain percentages given to these allocations, and I remember the response was 20% and da-da-da-da. Are we held to those allocations? We have to use our $372,000 in that ratio?
We don't. And so they're detailed in the MOU because that was the formation and the intent. But there's a clause in there that specifically says that we're not obligated to follow those. We're obligated to use it for the greater intent. And that is important for us, but it's important for the county too, because as things move, we'll spend more money on planning in the first year and probably no money planning in year 5 because the plans will all be done,
Sure.
So you'll need to be able to be a little bit flexible, although most of the money will go towards mitigation in every year.
That's awesome.
Well, I hope that you will support that because it'll come to you to actually decide.
Yeah, good, because I just wanted to, our needs may not fall into those neat little ratios.
Right.
That they had designed. And I assume that nobody else is going to have to abide by those.
Right. Yeah, the technical advisory committee, when they're making recommendations to the board of supervisors for the unincorporated funds and then that $128,000, they will use that as a guidepost to make sure that they're keeping on task. But even that group won't be held strictly to those percentages.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm looking for a motion.
Just one.
Oh, sorry. Gary.
The comment you made, we don't need to fight about these things. We need to figure them out. And that's the approach we took, and that's the approach we'll take. Not that we're not capable of fighting if necessary, but, it's not our default, and it's not going to be our default. And we analyzed this, we took it very seriously, and decided on an approach, and we stood by it, and that's how we need to do things. I just wanted to say that we succeeded in that, so.
Thank you for shedding light, or a little bit more light on that. That's important. All right, now I'm looking for a motion.
I move we adopt the resolution.
Second.
All those do we need a roll call on this, or? Yeah, okay. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Cece?
Yes.
Councilmember Klein?
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fernandez?
Yes.
And
Yes.
Passes 5-0.
All right, moving on to.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
You may.
2 things. I would like to request a 5-minute bio break. Also, it's 48 degrees outside. If we can make sure that the air is turned off, that would be
You
fantastic.
can open a door
Thank
if you
you.
need to.
All right, we are going to have a 5-minute bio break, coming back at 13 after. Well, Sean's over there gabbing.
Yes, take it over by you, take it over by you.
I've seen him, I just.
I won't eat them. I wouldn't sleep for 2 days by
Yeah, you're right. I thought they might have been.
right?
But,
There's
you know,
nothing
I'd
that
like
keeps-
to know, because. you
There's
never
nothing
know.
that keeps the council from interrupting
Brian.
the staff report and saying move approval.
We need to be more like that. And here's the emergency button.
Oh, there is?
That's an emergency button right there. Calls it PD.
No.
It works too, because every time somebody new has a meeting in here.
They push it. Want to see what happens?
I pushed it.
All right, no, we want to go home, I think. We got some good people here who've been working all day. We need to go home. All right, what are we doing? Oh, we're doing, okay, 10. Consideration of an award, I just forgot which number we're on, and we're at the last one.
No
of
more
the-
breaks for you.
I know, it's the sugar, I'm all jacked up. Consideration of an award, consideration of award to contract, well, wait. Yeah, no, award of contract with Hanson Brothers Enterprises. I thought I missed something, though. Yeah, no, I got it right here. Consideration of award of a contract with Hanson Brothers Enterprise in amount not to exceed $151,477 for concrete walk, gutter, and stairs at various locations. Authorized a project contingency of 10% not to exceed $15,147, and authorized city manager execute said any contracts or related documents. And we are going to hear from our wonderful city engineer, Brian. Take it away.
Good evening. Hello. So we have the Measure M voter-approved initiative, which helps fund street improvement projects like this. And what we've done here is assembled several concrete projects together just so that we get more value by bidding them all together. So all of the work involves concrete work, and it's sidewalks in several locations on Washington Street, a little bit on Main Street, Sacramento Street, and also Argyle. And then replacement of some stairs on near George Street, between Jordan Street and Tribulation Trail. And so we bid the project, got 4 bids, and the contractor that's low bidder, we've worked with quite a few times, and so we're recommending award of this project and here to answer any questions.
Okay, first, we're going to look for public comment in the room. That would be you, no public comment. And we're looking for whether our friend wants to comment in cyberspace.
And friends in cyberspace, would you like to comment on this item?
This
No.
is a
No
Matthew
hand
issue.
yet, yeah.
I would
No.
expect him to have some insight.
It's okay.
Okay,
All right,
moving on.
all right. So would anybody have a burning desire? Gary, you're Public Works, you know this stuff.
I know way too much about sidewalks. It's just like, it's just sidewalks. I think, I appreciate what you're doing. I know you're doing the spot repairs and picking up the worst places and then bundling, which makes a lot of sense. I think, we've got a couple of pieces of correspondence. I'm not sure if you're aware of them. I think they both had merit, but I think it belongs in the infrastructure committee of the strategic plan to look at our policies on sidewalks and how we prioritize repairs and how really it's about how we manage requests for that. So, but I'm not going to take it up tonight. Good on the project. Let's go. Let's do it and stay on it. But I think there are some conversations we need to have about sidewalks going forward, and be happy to have them.
Okay. Anybody else? No.
Yeah, and I just
Oh,
wanted-
sorry,
sorry.
Daniela.
Yeah, I just wanted to piggyback on that real quick and just name that one of those, I think should be, if it isn't already, the sidewalk design guidelines, that they should be uniform across town. Yeah.
One thing just to note on that is, we do have in the bid, lamp black color, which we've been using
Yep.
on the last 3 or 4 good-sized projects, and it has, a darker color, so it's not as white as new concrete in the city area, and kind of blends in with the older concrete. And then we also have in the bid a requirement when you're in the historic district to use the pattern that we have in our standards, which is a score pattern with tighter space scoring and smaller score lines that don't have the deep tooled radius.
Consistent with what is in front of the National Hotel?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, when we're in the historic district,
Yeah.
which Washington Street is.
Yeah.
Tribulation Trail falls out of the historic district, but it's stairs, not sidewalks.
Thanks, Brian.
Sure.
So those wonderful stairs that go from the end of Jordan Street down to Tribulation Trail, that's in my neighborhood, and my neighbors call that the Jacob's Ladder, because sometimes you're going up to heaven, sometimes you're afraid you're falling down to hell.
Oh, my goodness.
And I've lived there for 7 years, and at least 4 of those, some of the stairs have rotted. So I'm very glad you're replacing them. One concern a neighbor expressed to me is if they're going to be replaced with concrete, is there any way to make sure that they are non-slip? So that in the dark and the frost, that's not a well-lit stairway, people won't just slip right off them.
Okay. Yeah, we can do a rougher broom finish.
That would be
That's a good
very much
consideration.
considered, because I have some people my age live in that neighborhood.
Yeah, it could be. Anybody else? First of all, this is, one of the most important part of our jobs is fixing sidewalks and potholes and things like that. So I appreciate it. What? And kissing baby, well, but I love you aggregating the projects together to get an economy of scale and save some money, and I think that's just great. I will defer to the sidewalk issues to our sidewalk expert, Councilman Member Peterson, on when to do these, to do the analysis of our sidewalk policy. But we do need one, I think, because right now, the squeaky wheel gets the sidewalk repair. Or do you have a sort of hierarchy of needs of what projects,
Yeah, we prioritize based on safety as a primary concern, and then also just the return on investment. Like if it's going to cost us more to maintain on a regular basis, it's just better to replace it. If the trees are going to continually heave up that section of sidewalk or whatever. But safety is probably the higher concern.
So that's good. So if somebody calls with an issue that's definitely a safety hazard, like the stairs, that's something that would get moved to the sort of the top of the pile.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's, hundreds of sidewalks that need repaired right here. All right, so if, that's all for me. Thank you, Brian. Anybody else? Sorry.
I agree that we should have a consistent look when we can, and it does look nice in front of the National. Yeah, that's all I got. I got nothing but good job, everybody. You're
Yeah,
all
well,
doing great.
that's a good job kind of thing. It is. All right. So I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Adopted.
All those, well, we need a,
Can I get what the motion is to state it?
all right. Consideration award of a contract to Hanson Brothers Enterprise in an amount not to exceed $151,477 for concrete walk, gutter, and stairs at various locations. Authorize the project contingency of 10% not to exceed $15,147, and authorize the city manager to execute any contracts related documents.
I move that.
And I second that.
Roll call.
Councilmember Cece.
Yes.
Councilmember Klein.
Yes.
Councilmember Peterson.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Fernandez.
Yes.
And Mayor Fleming.
Yes. Passes 5-0. All right. Now we're going to move on to our city manager. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
Couple things this evening. I'm sorry for number 4. this evening, item number 4 that you had to pull off. That should not happen again in your December meeting. We will set the calendar for 2023. So where we will address all those issues. Your second meeting in September, we'll likely recommend you cancel because you'll likely be at the League of Cities. We'll address the moving to Thursdays for summer nights, and we'll address the second meeting in November and December, all of those things, so that's set well in advance of anybody else taking up calendaring issues. So, but I appreciate you addressing that this
So we
evening.
could plan our lives.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
And our committee members can plan their lives,
Yes,
too.
and our committee, thank you, Lou, for looking out for committee members. That's important.
And then once you approve that, we'll put it on the master calendar on the city's website and all of your calendars and move forward and not have to have that again.
And also just want to thank the Fire Advisory Committee for moving their meeting for the second time now because of us. I meant to say that earlier and I didn't.
Oh, wow, okay.
Much appreciated. Our draft strategic plan is out for public comment. It is on the city website under the news and announcement. You can click and review it there. You can also provide comments there. Everything from grammar to punctuation to, I love it, I hate it. We'll take just about anything. We've had a pretty consistent trickle of input on it. Nothing substantial other than people saying it needs to say wastewater more often was one big thing other than grammar. But please take a look at that for those at home. I'll defer the rest of my comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
We got a comment from one of our citizens that the strategic plan was nothing but bars and consumption lounges.
Goodness.
It's so easy to come to that conclusion if you don't read the plan.
Exactly. I don't know.
Or you didn't show up.
Yes, exactly. And you're just, okay. All right. Do any of our wonderful council people have any committee? Oh, Gary, go right ahead. Committee stuff.
Well, I was just going to comment that tomorrow at 3 o'clock, Brian and Amy are doing a softscape walkthrough for the downtown area for benches and that sort of thing. I didn't think we had exactly a committee attached to that, but I was planning on attending. If there's not a conflict and there's not like 3 of us or
I think I got to go to the ERC meeting.
Yeah, okay. So I was planning on attending and just listening in, so.
Thank you.
That was the comment I had. Thank you for, one of the comments was thank you for staff keeping us informed about the tennis court lights that might be ready for next tennis season. But we'll see. Thank you.
Was that from Dan Reinhardt?
No, that was from me for keeping us informed.
Oh, okay, because you're a citizen over there, too.
Well, we're getting the information. The information's coming out where the community's being well apprised of the status of the project, which is not what was happening previously, so.
Thank you, Gary. That's good feedback. I just want to make sure that we like you say, get that right.
Yeah. Dan Reinhardt will make sure we do.
You will, and we need to. Daniela.
Yeah, last week, was it last week? What is time? I'm not sure. Maybe it was last week. I, along with our city manager, Sean, represented the Arts and Culture Committee. Sorry, Adam, you missed a great day when we hosted State Senator Allen and Assemblymember Horvath, who are the head of the State Arts Committee, and we gave them a tour of our cultural district in Nevada City, highlighting the Ubaseo Gallery, the inside gorgeous mural by Sarah Coleman at the Nevada Theater, and then proceeded to do a mural tour of Grass Valley and then land at the Center of the Arts. It was great to host them. It was great to get Nevada City on the map. We heard from them and adjacent people that were accompanying them, that were part of the California Arts Council from Sacramento, that they hadn't ever been north of Sacramento. And we had such a charming, lovely town, they wanted to come back. So it was really, really nice to show the town off and really highlight all of our arts and culture.
Thanks for doing that. Thanks for representing us. That was important. It looked like a good time.
It was fun.
I was sorry to miss that. Lou and I were at the solid waste meeting, which is every bit as glamorous and fun. It's in the news a lot, the solid waste thing, so it felt good that we were there. And I heard encouraging things on the state of waste management in going forward, let's say. So encouraging there. But that sounded fun.
So much fun.
Lou, do you got anything?
Yeah, the Fire Safety Advisory Committee met last week, and we visited the Drummond Street Sliver. I'm very glad to see the work that has been done there. It now looks really like it's ready for adoption.
Nice.
There's one issue with where the chips fell, where they may. But I'll detail that in a separate report. And the Fire Safety Advisory Committee started setting out what its own strategic goals are for the next year. An excellent job, both by the committee members and by our facilitator, Pete Williams.
I've heard good things, so that's wonderful to hear. Anybody else? I went to the executive committee of the Economic Resource Council, and we talked about why we exist, and nobody could really answer that. I mean, there was some existential.
Nevada City or
No.
Economic Resource Council?
No, we know why we exist.
Historically.
But it was, I'm a little flip about that. There is some attrition with businesses like Briar Patch not paying their $1,000 to be part of this. And my question was, what is the benefit to somebody from joining this? And we really, I think this has been going on for a while. I mean, there is some benefit, but it's still a little, I think it's a group searching for a mission besides just broad picture economic development. That being said, one of the best things that they do is happening tomorrow at the Center for the Arts. They're doing their annual Economic Development Summit, and they're going to have a good presentation, and I'm blanking on somebody who's really cool. The Bow-Tied Economist, I think, is speaking. You've ever seen this guy? No, anyway. Anyway, if anybody's not doing anything tomorrow, come to the Center for the Arts at 3:30. It is $50 if you're a member, or $60 if you're not. And somehow I got to pay 2 tickets. So if anybody wants to go, I'll have an extra ticket. And that's all for me right now. We're putting anyway, that's it. So I am looking for.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
I third.
All right, we are adjourned at 8:33. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, public. Thank you, staff. Thank you, Gabby. Thank you, Sean.
Thanks for the treats, which kept me awake.
Oh, I know, that's.